two, one. There we go. Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy Monday, everybody. I am your host, Howard Hondo Greenberg, here with the man himself, Stephen Big Beat Orr, our main man, the CEO founder here at Quasar Markets. Big Beat, how you feeling today?
I'm good, man. It's a great weekend. I needed a little bit of rest, and there it come. Speaking of rest, I think uh, a lot of things have happened over the weekend. Howard, I think we're going to get to that here soon. But another attempt at Donald Trump's life,
Yeah,
um,
I don't mean
and
to laugh at
Boeing's
that.
yeah, and Boeing still, I guess, over the weekend, kind of strengthening up there's sojourn right there, but the malaise. I was out and about this weekend a little bit, Saturday, which I like to do every once in a while to get to see what's going on out in the public, and there are some things people are still worried. They're not in a good mood. I think they're unhappy about the election, whether they're no matter who they're voting for. They're not happy with Trump. They're not happy with Kamala.
Right.
Even the people that are
Yeah. I mean, what you keep seeing is the same thing as, I'm sure on your Facebook, Twitter feed, Slack messages, all that is this really the best we have? We're choosing between
right.
these two, so that I agree. I will say world markets relatively calm overnight. Big part of that, though, was Japan, mainland China, and South Korean markets were closed for a holiday. But we did get some economic data out of China, and it was not good. Weekend economic data showed further slowing in August. Factory output, retail sales, and investment all came below estimates, and unemployment highest in 6 months. So you and I have been talking about that. You've been railing about that issue. Still seems to be a concern there. What are your views there?
I don't really have a lot of views right now. I think that to me, this whole world is based on one thing, and that's what's going to happen at the FOMC meeting on Wednesday.
It really is. I mean, we both talked about it. Outside of looking at a few things here and there, I'm pretty much sitting on my hands here the next couple of days. I don't think we're going to see the volume we need to see a sustained rally. As I talked to you earlier or put on our Slack there too, it's funny. You say that about consumer is, negative, and I agree. That's, when I talk to people, they are. But meanwhile, we're at almost all-time highs on the SPY,
Yeah.
QQQ, Dow, RUI, gold. So why is it you think that sentiment is so negative right now?
Well, I think a lot of people don't really understand the basics of the markets with people, right? Let me tell you, even though the markets go down, every 2 weeks, people put money in the market, that whether they like it or not, because they are investing through their 401k plans. They're investing through and venture plans. They've got a lot of plans, and that just automatically puts money into it. And when you're not going crazy and selling, or you're not playing the markets, and you're not a trader, it doesn't matter. You're still investing, and then that's the dollar cost averaging is literally the best way to go, right? Um, but what you're seeing right now, even at all-time highs, is that the anticipation of the cut has been pretty high over the last few months. But it's not just the stock market that's gone up. It's also gold prices
Yeah.
have gone up. It's also, believe it or not, crypto prices. They're not at all-time highs, but they're still going up. People are buying whatever's out there, right? And I'll tell you a couple of things that have been hurting. And I think that's restaurants. They are starting to not be full anymore. Some of the restaurants that I normally go to, that gosh, you have to get a reservation for it. I don't have to do that anymore. Looking for, are people going on vacation right now? No. They're waiting because the holidays are coming up, and they will be going to Disney. They will be going to Universal Studios. So no, I think everybody's waiting right now. I think everybody's waiting for the election. I think everybody's waiting for the Fed right now. And, the turmoil that's going on over in the Middle East and over in China Taiwan issues are really ratcheting up. I saw over the weekend where Bibi Netanyahu is coming to the UN General Assembly, of which I will be at. I'll be at the UN General Assembly next week. I'll tell you right now, there is some. I am going to be watching the UN General Assembly very, very closely. Um, Two things are going to happen there, Hondo, that I am interested in. The first thing is, and it will be historic, is allowing Africa onto the Security Council. That has never ever happened. Normally, it's one country and one Security Council vote. They have, as we all know, veto vote on anything goes on in the UN. So adding the whole continent of Africa is different.
Yeah.
And the second thing is to see how the Israel Hamas issue is going to play out in the UN. I know that many countries are calling for a complete ceasefire and stop and end the war. If you had told me that by the middle of 2024 here in the fall now coming up, that we would be in three different types of wars right now, I would not be agreeing with you. I, believe it or not, find the malaise in this country probably a lot to do with the election, but people are also worried about the geopolitical issues. And I watched Civil War again, the movie, like it to remind me, hey, these things possibly could happen. And so people are just pretty much sitting on their hands right now. And we don't want that to happen. We want things to be moving. And you've got a whole list of news from the weekend. Let's get right to that.
Sure. So, as we're talking about on a macro level, Bank of Japan, they have theirs
Yeah.
following the FOMC, not expecting any rate change there. So we're seeing a strengthening of the yen, rising against the dollar, and it's pushed the DXY back below 160, or excuse me, 101. I was thinking about two different things. Down about 100.693 here, bottom left of my screen. So, I think that's a concern, is that DXY, or I think that's going to help crypto personally. We're getting to that spot where is when we tend to see Bitcoin get bought up, so that should help. Do you think that will help the stock market too?
Right now, the stock market's on its own little legs right now. I don't know. Here what's interesting to me, Howard. I don't really know what's holding the market up outside of the buyers here, because I think that's weak legs. To be honest with you, we saw it not but just a couple of weeks ago, that when there's just a little bit of turmoil in the markets, the whole thing just sold off. I mean, yeah, people can say it's still a yen carry trade, or they can point to this or point to that, but I still think that the buyers, and I've been saying this for how long, it stares up an elevator down. So for me, I'm kind of sitting on my hands this week. This could be a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of FOMC meeting. And if they do raise 50 points, which I don't think so, and not too many people do, I mean, there's only a few people, but if they did, then there's a bigger, broader problems that we don't even know about. We know about the layoffs. We know about Boeing. We know about things that are in geopolitical. But if there's anything more, and they tell us there's more issues out there, then you're going to see a massive sell-off on Wednesday. If not, then the 25 basis points is already baked in.
Yeah, I mean, FedWatch has definitely moved to the 50-point basis, 65. So, that had been a lot lower all last week. It's moving up. You were mentioning Wall Street Journal with articles about it's going to be 50, and others. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. I was laughing. I saw someone that you are a fan of. I know, Stanley Druckenmiller, literally broke into CNBC this morning right on when they were on the air, and said, I want to know why all these experts are saying 50 points when the Fed only went up 25 points with 9% inflation and zero interest rate. So I thought that put things into perspective for me, that maybe this chart here that we have up on the screen isn't really right now.
Again, I say the same thing. I just feel like that everybody's waiting. I think we just need to see, to be honest. I think we just need to wait and see, and tell us then.
Yeah, I mean, I that's exactly. The one thing that's not up, Steve, is one of your favorite sectors, oil. Energy has definitely been the lagging sector, really the only one to get hit hard. I was looking this morning. They tried to make a run last week. We were watching. You've talked about that 70 handle being so important to the, to the refinery, not to the refinery, to the producers, and the drillers. So, we weren't able to hit that. I have some data for you to maybe you could give us some insight on, but China refineries, you've been talking about the issue of refineries. They were way down on their production last month.
Yeah.
down 10% from the month prior, and more importantly, down 17.5% year over year. And then saw another report from Swiss Quote Bank saying trend and momentum indicators on WTI still remain comfortably negative, while RSI hasn't hit the oversold level. Can you give us a little insight of what you're thinking in that oil market there?
Well, we are, as we speak, with Hondo, we're seeing some buyers in the oil market. The WTI right now is sitting at 70.12 now a
Oh
barrel.
wow, look at that move.
Yeah,
And you can
I
see on
am,
the
I
right hand
am,
side here, 3 hours of strong buying.
yeah, because I think that could be from the U.S. government, and I've said be careful because the SPR still needs to be filled up. I was just looking at the SPR right now, and how much has it been filled up. It's just starting. It's not quite there yet. We're seeing uh, right around 360 million barrels at the height of the strategic reserve. The max capacity if you don't know, there's a big area where they put the oil, and that max capacity is right around 714 million barrels, and we're only at about 350. We're about half of where we should be. You're talking about 1982, 1980 levels, mainly because of the pandemic, but they need to start buying back. Um, and they're doing that now, but not heavily. Back in early 2001 to 2004, we had some the during 9/11. I don't want to say it too loudly because it still hurts, but that's when they were the big buying was happening for the SPR, and the same thing will start to happen here. I think when they start to buy for the SPR, it's not a daily thing. I mean, it's not a overnight thing. It happens, and they continue to buy. So they will continue to pin under 70 and buy for the SPR. So I can't imagine oil going to 60, $65 a barrel quickly. If it does, then they'll start buying back again. But I think we're okay there. I don't any buyers. I'd be a buyer anything under at 68. I'd be a buyer of oil.
You heard it here from Big Beat himself. I will say an interesting sort of side note to that I saw was Jeffries did a report where they looked back over the past 50, 60 years at the times that we've seen a 12-month decline in oil prices, WTI, and of this magnitude. It was interesting. It's happened 13
Yeah.
times, and on average, the S&P has gone up 18% after S&P 500. So
Yep.
you were telling me some interesting things or insights on that earlier. Would you like to expound on that a little bit?
When you look at the stock market and well, again, we talked about this on Friday, right? It's Dow theory. If oil prices are pushing higher, that means people are moving around the world, they're moving around the country, they're using gasoline, they're spending it, they're buying it. That means they're buying products. That means the stock market's probably going to go up because why? Because quite frankly, that people are buying things, and that's what we need the economy to keep moving. So yeah, usually that's what happens. Um, Again, I can't see the future that well right now until I see what the FOMC does. Let me know and I'm not just interested in the 25 or 50 basis points. I'm really interested into seeing what was being said at the meeting and who voted for what. Who voted for 50, who voted for 25, who voted not to even raise or lower, I should say. But when you look at, I want to see if Powell comes out. I guarantee you now the bet right now is he comes out in a purple tie. Uh, is that what's he going to do, right? What's he going to say? What words, what verbiage was changed in order to make him feel the way that he did? And what makes him feel like, okay, we did it for 25, but in the future we could cut even more. Wow, that's going to change the whole market, right? Boom, the market's going to fall because there's a reason why they got to cut more. Um, I will say this much, and I said it last year too. When they start cutting, they will not stop cutting. They will continue to cut. They will continue almost verbatim each single time. So that's the kind of market and the Federal Reserve that we know, right? This is not a Federal Reserve that goes crazy. We know they sometimes get behind the curve like they are now, and sometimes they're a little slow to the uptake, but they do get back on target, and I think they're going to do that this week. Now, I will say this much: these are the kind of questions that I'll be asking Michael Litt over on our
Wednesday.
interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I've been digesting his latest report. You had put that out on the Quasar Slack. He's got some interesting thoughts. He really nailed back in November. I know you
Yeah.
interviewed him, and he had really nailed a lot as the Fed hit their peak pricing, peak interest rates. So I'm very interested to see that interview also on Wednesday. I did see U.S. bond prices rose early this morning, pushing the two-year yield down to the lowest in September of 2022. The other thing I was talking to you about is that spread between the two-year and the 10-year is actually getting into a nice positive range. Could you talk a little bit more about how you think that maybe is going to get influenced on Wednesday, or what it
Yeah.
tells us about Wednesday?
I always say the same thing. Bond traders are the smartest traders because that is the biggest market in the world. The U.S. bond market is literally the biggest. When bond prices go down, usually stocks go up, and we're seeing bond prices come down, or have been, right? But the rates have continued to fall. I can't tell you how many times people have been so happy about that, right? That their houses, they start to move houses again. They can start to buy cars again. People know that the rates are coming down. So is the bond market an appetite for large, what we call direct investment? Those are from the bigger firms. Right now, I don't think so. I don't think people are buying up U.S. Treasuries because that's the safest place to be right now. I think it's still the same, and we're seeing it. It's the highest uh, cash pile in history. I just asked Warren Buffett; his cash pile is the highest. So yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think that yeah.
absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I wanted to go through some of the movers from last week, some of the things that saw news over the weekend. You got to start with Boeing, right? Strike entering day four. Hopefully, we can get a solution soon because I saw a 30-day strike would cost them about $3 billion. So that really worried me. But on the positive side, I was looking through all the analyst reports to see what their average sort of price target was, and it's still about 213. I know you mentioned that I think you made a buy on Boeing the other day.
I
What?
did. I made a quick swing. I bought and sold already because I'm still quite a bit nervous on Boeing. But for me, yeah, look, the strike is not going to last forever. We know that, and we know that. Look, if everything is terrible and the world is bad, I mean, they have literally had every bad piece of news. The Dreamliner, the obviously the strike, obviously whistleblowers everywhere, right?
Leaving people in space.
Right. Because of all of that, and the stock's still holding at 156.60, that should tell you everything.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's just that you can't get more. I would hate to be that poor marketing person and PR person. That's a tough job right there. We got TikTok in court today. You have any views on that? Biden is trying to make ByteDance divest and sell out. I think it's important. I do think a lot of data is gleaned. I think that there's been enough whistleblower reports there to prove that they're sending that data back to their parent company in mainland China. I don't like censorship or anything like that, but I do. I told you last week I was blown away by the amount of people that use TikTok now as their search engines. For millennials, it's their number one search engine, outpacing Google. So, what any thoughts on on today's case and our court case there?
I'm not a fan of TikTok. I think everybody knows that, right? I think it's a degradation of the of social media. It sends people down the rabbit hole at late at night, watching videos of nuttiness, right? But it's also the playground of the younger generation, and so they are on TikTok really, really a lot. Um, I don't really have a thought behind it. I wish TikTok would just go away as, and not as TikTok, but the way of these short videos and where people just it's really the attention span. It tells you everything about what's going on with people in general, that they're easily influenced, and I don't like easily influenced people. I
Oh,
like people
big
that
hit by Boeing right there on the
yeah,
3 minute
something going on.
chart. Whoa, no, going the wrong way.
Yeah, I haven't
Just
touched
dropped to
anything yet. So
156.07. Let me take a quick look here and make sure we're not seeing any big drop like that on the SPY QQQ. Nah, that was Boeing specific. Just That was a weird one. My bottom right here is just a 3 minute chart. Um, yeah, I actually am a fan of TikTok. I think for certain things, I think that
Yeah.
they, like all the social media platforms, the moderation of it, and that part is tough. I think it's a problem that's where younger people, are searching for information. I definitely think that's a problem. That's why you need some more verification and some of those things that are fact checking this stuff. Um, but it's a different way that that consumer absorbs media. So that's a I'm just not that age group, and neither are you. So I guess that is part of it. GM, this is one I was interested in. We were looking at last week. It moved up nicely on the news that they had signed the memorandum with Hyundai to make more EV charging stations and to share technology on the self-driving systems. It it could continue to move. Again, another one where I saw the 22 analysts covering it have an average price target of about 55.98. So you still see room to the upside. So while I've talked about where S&P all-time highs almost QQQ, there are individual sectors, individual stocks that still look very attractive. So I know you've been down in general on the EV part of the markets. What are you thinking about GM? And I like the fact that looking at these charts, especially the hourly, it did a little retracement, but it's held up well. And here in the pre-hour morning, starting to build back up a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, when you look at the vehicles, and I did that while you were talking, pulled up the General Motors website. They're still pushing the EV, right? Calling themselves the most affordable 315 plus mile range. You're going up against Tesla, right? They have hands-free driving right there on the front of their website, and they are still pushing the envelope when it comes to this stuff. And we're not talking about just like, their little cruise or little cars. They're talking about hands-free driving with their GMC Yukon,
The Hummer.
hands-free, the Hummer. I mean, all you,
Have
you
you
name
seen
it. Like,
that thing? I mean, that's a great one to ask you a question about. Like, it's funny, like all of a sudden, all the big cars back in vogue if they're made by EV, right? The Cybertruck's a big, mammoth thing. Rivian's truck is big. That truck's big. Ford, what was their biggest seller in the EV so far? Their pickup. Is that maybe where the market share might come from here in the U.S. That sort of an unexpected consequence of people's attitude that if you do drive that big gas guzzler, people kind of give you that look.
yeah, I know that my wife gives them that look, but I will tell you that as rates come down and cars are being bought, one of the cool things that General Motors has that I think a lot of people don't really understand is their financing, right? When you finance a car, you're going through third parties. General Motors is one of the few companies that actually you can finance it through them, through GM Financial. Even other companies like BMW's, yeah, they do have BMW Financial, but it's not quite BMW Financial. GM Financial is GM Financial,
Right. It's not a
and they
white.
make
Just
money
to
on that.
follow up what you were just saying there, just for people that don't know, a lot of companies that you think you're getting the loan from them, it's a white label solution that's actually done through a member bank here in the U.S. Whereas GM is actually their own bank that provides those
Correct.
loans directly.
Yeah, and when you look at, I mean, if I'm not a big fan of the new Chevy Corvette. I can tell you that. I'm not. It looked a
I
little
love
weird.
it. I love it. That's
Yeah.
where we're different, man. I
Okay.
think that's one of the
Okay.
better looking ones I've seen in a while.
But for me, I will tell you, there's a new truck coming out of General Motors, and that's going to be called the Bright Drop 600 and the Bright Drop 400. It's a walk-in van. I was noticing about a week ago how the Postal Service says that their new, as you know, they're replacing their Jeeps,
Yeah.
which has lasted a good 20 years, with new electric vehicles that look ugly but last forever, and they're able to walk in and walk out of the vehicle so much easier, and it's electric. I think you're going to see a lot more of the electric vans, electric vehicles like that nature than anything. I also seeing here the Silverado's new ZR2 Bison Edition, the bad boy here. So they're really pushing the envelope here, and I like General Motors here actually.
Yeah, I mean they're opening. For me, it's a little different because where I live here in Ohio, they're actually opening two plants. In fact, one in the
Yeah,
city
okay, yeah.
the little city that I'm in, where they're going to build those electric vehicle vans. I'd like to see them get into, or where I think the biggest need is the 18 wheeler EV. I think that's the game changer. If you're out
Hmm.
on the road on the weekend, I had to drive to DC and back this weekend, and what is the bane of my existence? The thousands of semis going down Route 70 with me on the way to DC on a 2-lane highway through the mountains. So, that's where my vision of it is down in the future, where it really becomes that game changer. Switching
Well, I
around a
mean,
little.
but if you look at Ford, though, I mean, Ford's got that Bronco. I mean, they're pushing the door too. I mean, they're not playing around. They also have EcoBoost hybrids and electrics, and
I know
I'm
you're
shocked.
a big fan of the hybrid model versus
Yes,
the
I think
traditional.
hybrid has been the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, Ford. I think that's part of a cyclical move because Ford last year, as you know, I was heavy in Ford when they started announced the Mustang and all that. It seems to be a sell the news type of thing. Whenever they come out, and say, hey, here's what's going on, whether it be GM, Ford, I won't say Stellantis there, but the other U.S. makers, they've gotten that nice pump off of the tech and the cycles. I do think GM's got a nice extended push here that they've got ability to do. On the downside, we've seen Moderna get hit really hard in early morning. It is starting to finally find a little bit of a floor here. Although you can see on the 3-minute, it tried to make one pump up to 68.80, got rejected pretty hard there, back down around 68.46. Do you think they're finally starting to find a floor here? I'm not sure. I'm not seeing the positive movement there that makes me warm and fuzzy. I think you could see them challenge that 64 down here again, the support level there.
Oh, I think when you look at it from that perspective, I think you're right. I think they're going to challenge 64.
Yeah, so we agree on that one. A couple others I was looking at here. Apple, one that I'm a fan of. You're not as big a fan, and you're definitely playing out your way right now. Getting hit here, I saw that their pre-orders on the iPhone 16, which you called this out as probably being the case, were weaker than expected. Their pre-orders are about 12.7% lower than the Apple 15. And what it's hitting is what we talked about right after the Apple announcement. No real AI built into the new phone. Talks of what they're bringing
Apple
next.
Intelligence. I mean, that was the
Yeah,
silliest thing I heard.
it's an
And not this
oxymoron.
one, the last one, right? And this one, they come out more Apple Intelligence. They can't just say AI. Come on, like it
Right.
has to be Apple. That's silly. That's marketing, and it's not really real AI. It's mostly, a higher quality Apple search engine. That's pretty much what's going on. Now I'll tell you, there's a couple things that I do think that's cool. Is the new Apple AirPod 4. Believe it or not, the Fed actually has approved the new AirPods as hearing
Hearing
aids.
aids. I did see that.
That to me is a little interesting. Instead of people buying hearing aids and buying AirPods and or any other kind of connection there, and they have their Apple phone. I believe Apple phones are for you know how I feel about Apple phones.
Right.
They're more dumbed down. And because of that, that maybe you see a tick up a little bit. But my wife gets the new phone every other time. Not every time. I get a new phone now every other time. I used to get it every single time, and I don't believe that Samsung is that great when it comes to upgrading every single time. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people upgraded their phone in the last one, not this one. So we're seeing now that the sales are being revised way downward, not just a little bit, way downward. How do we know that? Because you know how the orders go to China when they make
Right.
the machine.
Absolutely. And that's
Um,
where that information came out of China, exactly.
yeah.
Okay,
Um,
we are about 1 minute away here, so I'm going to stop talking for a second and get us taking a look here as we do go to open. Do have a lot more to talk about. I will say before that, though, two of the pumpers we talked about on Friday, those that were with us watched SMMT gain, 16%. Up again here, about 1.13. One that I'm definitely watching here again as a chance for another pop that is definitely um, still in play. I'm just sorry, trying to find my note here on why I liked it right now.
And I'll say that the next thing on Apple is the new iOS 18 comes out today, so you can download the new iOS.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna need to do that for my phone.
Yeah,
Um,
here we are
we
on the
are
open. Guess
live,
what?
so let's see what happens.
Yeah, we're selling off a little bit, some selling in the cash market. Boeing, believe it or not, is actually positive here. So somebody
There you go.
bought Boeing on the open there.
Just to follow up on that SMMT, the reason it is such a darling right now, they raised $235 million. They announced, and 79 million came from insiders within the company buying more shares of their stock. So I think that's about as bullish news you could have, right? When the CEO, CFO, and everybody is putting another $80 million basically into it, and it's pumping right
I'm
here, up about another 3.7% here this morning, trying to make a run for us. Let's see what's going on with the
I'm seeing
spot.
where Google is teaming up to launch AI-powered satellites for rapid wildfire detection, enhancing global firefighting efforts. That's crazy. That's awesome.
That would be amazing, especially that's the goes to the smart city stuff that I've talked with you
Right.
about.
I like that. Yeah.
That is the future. So, what's the tick looking like, Steve?
Yeah, you caught my mind. I was just now looking at it. Up about 400 right now.
Okay, so
So
that's pretty muted. That was more like Thursday, Friday than Monday, Tuesday last week. Those are the
yeah,
one numbers I like to see. The muteds led us to more, a better move.
I remember talking about one stock after their earnings came out. That's IBM. The stock got down to about 180ish. I was a buyer down there. I no longer own IBM, but IBM is now at 216.
Wow.
40 points move. So, yeah, some of these stocks that you think that, the big blues, the big stalwarts of the markets are what's holding up the market.
Without a doubt. The other one of yours that you called out was Intel as one that you liked. Getting hit a little bit here this morning, but another one that's been up nicely. I mean, it is up 1.37% here, even with the little hit it's getting. So pre-market move was okay there. They had some
And
news earlier today. Again, that positive news is definitely moving the needle across the board here when it comes to all of the different markets, and they're starting to move back up here again too.
we're seeing silver market here. I keep telling people to watch the silver market. $31 an ounce now, up
I will
0.8.
mention Steve did say $50.
Yeah.
$50.
Oil pushing higher here too as well.
Yeah, that
There
pushed
goes
right through that
Boeing.
70 handle, huh?
Bowen's up again. Bowen's up 0.3%. Even on the worst, come on. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like some people are just, if that's the worst you can bring and throw at Bowen, then guess what? They're starting to build a bottom then. Ooh, Nasdaq continue to sell off here a little bit. I guess it's back on the
I
basis of Apple now down 3.6%.
Wow.
So that money's got to go somewhere, and Apple is the most held stock, right? So yeah,
Well, we're seeing the darling is getting hit here. Tesla down about 2.5%. Nvidia down about 2.5%. Almost 3 now.
now I got to remind everybody that
SMCI getting hit again. Another one we've talked about so much in the
yeah,
news.
4%.
So
Yeah.
semis, which were up so much last week, like 10%, the semi conductor index getting hit hard here this morning.
And Disney's up 1.7%. So it's the big stalwarts that are holding up the markets.
Yeah, like you said, IBM up a point here. Trying to see what's happening here. Retail holding up so far, but that's been the early morning move by Nordstrom here. Most mornings, then it's sold off. So let's see what happens there. Is retail going to get a little bit of a bid here today?
Still selling here. We're still seeing some selling here. Apple now down 3.65%. Woof.
VIX is moving up here, up to about 17.38.
One of my favorites is National Grid NGG, now back to $70, up 0.5% here. IBM's up 1% today.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, ticker O is the retail. It's the REIT that is all the retailers. The own all of the real estate that they live on. and up 0.73%. They pay a very ALB. Wow, ALB now up
Albemarle.
1 point. Yeah, Albemarle is now up 1.4%. Wow.
So that and
Bitcoin
Albemarle, as
now
we know, is a little bit of a play on titanium,
lithium.
right? Lithium,
Yeah.
wrong thing. So I just want to
Wow.
say some. So it looks like materials are moving up in the day. We've seen oil pumping up. We see all that. Looking at the pre markets again. Wow, Restoration Hardware up another 2.51, and looking like it might be a runner today. It ran big time on Thursday, and I was going to point that out. It's one of the ones here in my pre morning notes. Is that after that 25% gain, we really haven't seen any retracement at all on that. That's a hell of a good looking 1 hour chart there. So retail Signet again, another one we talked about earlier this morning. Let's take a look at NVO. NVO had been really outperforming a lot of the market when it came to the healthcare and weight loss drugs. They were having a little bit of momentum in the pre-market, trying to hold it here. Seeing a little bit of a sell-off. Cable and communication up today again too. You know, that Disney news with them and DirecTV's got Warner Brothers Discovery is up about 1.65 today. Charter up 1.73. So it seems as people are digesting the news of all of these contracts actually getting done before the issue, not after, right? Definitely helping that sector.
Looking at the Dixie here, 100.62. I going back 99.60 was back in July of last year. So we've done a round tripper already. And if it breaks through that, Howard, we're going to go back all the way back to April of 22. Wow. That would mean the dollar is weakening pretty strongly here.
Yeah, that is definitely it's good for the, and that would explain why we're seeing Albemarle. That's why we're seeing oil. That's why we're seeing silver, gold,
If the
everything move in
dollar's
that
low
direction,
and
right?
rates are coming down, I mean,
It makes
exactly why
everything more
stocks are going
attractive.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So good to see that. Just trying to take a look here.
But not good for Apple here, down about 3.6%. Whew.
Another interesting one I saw this morning was Bausch and Lomb. I don't have it pulled up. I put the wrong chart. Give me 1 second here. BLCO.
Ticked down about 400 here, and still slipping here.
But Bausch and Lomb was up this morning on notification that from the Financial Times the company is considering selling itself, and it's contacted Goldman Sachs to look at that. An interesting one because Bausch and Lomb was spun off from Bausch Health, which is the parent company, recently, and the parent company is the problem. Parent company has a huge amount of debt, is in fear of restructuring things. So this is almost an activist move to try to get that money out of it and to try to keep it going. But it's seen a nice move up about 15% today. So that is interesting to me. Sticking big banks, we're moving on. Let's get to that chart. So you seen anything on the big banks there?
With rates coming down, I think people will start to refi, and I think that's probably good for them, right? Yeah.
And we do see JP Morgan up about 1.3, 1.27. Bank of America up about 1.27. I'm seeing a little turn here last 3 minutes, Steve. Are you seeing that across the tick too?
I am, yeah. You're starting to see a little bit. Some buyers, maybe it could be the shorts are just covering a little bit. I'm not sold on this market, and I am going to kind of sit on my hands again. Wow, SMCI continue to sell off here, down 4.45%.
Yeah, it's just getting killed.
Apple, holding here. Yeah, Boeing now down. Boeing's all over the place here. Now down on the day.
Oof, look at ASTS, Steve, down 7% today.
Yeah, I think Wall Street Bets has got a hold of that one.
Yeah, they pumped it too much. What we're doing is we're just coming right back towards that 21, 22 area where it was probably properly priced. So that was
I don't
definitely
know,
a sell the
Howard.
news. That was probably a sell the news. Again, they got all that pump going into when they launched their first 5 satellites, and now we see the sell off after. It's not uncommon.
Can't believe I'm doing this, Howard, but I am buying Boeing down here.
I hope I did not influence you there.
You did not. I don't get
Okay.
influenced by
Okay.
anything.
I just want to make
My
sure.
job. But I do like this. Oh dang it! Can't get in fast enough.
Let's see what our volume, what our spikes are here. Give me 1 second. Our
Maybe we
U.S.
get
movers here so far. NCNA. Let's take a look at NCNA from our Quasar apps.
155.93 is where I'm in. Oh, there you go. 156.09. There we go. Some popping here.
U.S. movers. NCNA was still up 140%, but you can see this is another one of those pump and dumps. Jeez. ZNTL, another volume pumper here. ZNTL.
Nvidia now down almost 4% here. There you go. There's a
Wow.
sell off there in Nvidia.
Yep.
Now down 3.36% now.
Bitcoin gave back a lot of those gains after getting to 60. I said to look for that, as you know, end of last week, that at 60 we'd see some issues. I know that you sold a little bit of your short-term pickup that you had down there at that price.
I did, yeah. And I'm looking forward to buying it back.
What are you
We talked.
targeting for your price there?
Unfortunately, I'm getting, as you said earlier this morning, to be selfish. I'm being selfish a bit. I took 10% of my Bitcoin off, so I want to get that back on, but we're not there yet. So I probably looking at around 56, 54.
I know you're looking for a full retracement sort of to the bottom of this double bottom we had
I don't think
here.
we'll get that, but I'd like to
On
see it.
Yep. I do see some support in that 57 area I gave you as a spot there. You know, if we look at retracement here on the daily chart off of the move that it made up here last week, we sort of see, you know, that 57,590 to me at that 0.382 retracement. I think that level would be a pretty decent level where we've seen some support. The other thing that I do have is that I think we showed some good support here in early August and that level just, you know, leading up to 56. So I think we've got a little bit of support there before we get to that 54. Wouldn't surprise me one way or the other. Like I said, you know, we're seeing the volatility. I love playing it here. My only concern on the daily chart is, you know, as you look here, Steve, the, you know, lower highs. We haven't had tremendous. We didn't have a lower low here compared to this day.
Right, it's higher lows and lower highs, which means that it's forming a pennant, and it just can't find direction, which is fine. That's a good thing for me.
Yeah, consolidating in that wedge works. You know what I mean?
Gold just hit a record high. I'm seeing. Oh
What's
my.
that?
Gold just hit a record high. Yeah, it did. 225.82 now an ounce.
Can see here on the short-term chart, 3-minute got rejected from the top of the VWAP range and now using the mid or the VWAP itself as support. Be interesting to see which way it breaks here.
I wouldn't be shocked if Boeing just came out and says, well, we're hearing now Apple's now down a 1 month low now. I wouldn't be shocked if Boeing came out and said, hey, we've got a potential here for a contract and be done with it. Let's get done. Let's move on. Let's build some planes, right?
Absolutely. VIX moving up still 1744 here.
We're seeing tick now the lows of the day now down about 530 now. So
not seeing much follow through from anything yet.
Oops, Boeing did slip there a little bit.
NASDAQ QQQ now down about 0.7% here. A lot of that being led by the drop in Tesla down 2%, Nvidia down 2.5%. So they are definitely not helping. Semiconductors in general getting hit. Intel, the only one bucking that trend.
Bitcoin now on the lows of the session here, breaking. at the 58,000 handle here. About to slip through. There it is, dropping now.
Yeah. See a little bit of strength here in the liquor
Ouch.
business.
Going.
Boeing getting hit again. Kroger holding up pretty well. It looks like it might try to fill that gap from back on April 5th.
I see a little bit of buying here back in the NASDAQ.
Okay. CrowdStrike up about 2 points today. That's good to see the recovery there. I did see Delta had some pretty decent movement this morning. Don't know if they've kept it up. They announced that actually the good news was, and they're up about a half a point here, that they weren't seeing too big of a hangover from the CrowdStrike issue. They saw bookings for the holidays and into the
Yeah.
March area pick up. So it's good to see that from DAL. One of the ones that was hit pretty hard during that. The other thing that they keep pointing out is the positive news that their airline gas costs are going to go tremendously down, which is one of their biggest expenditures for sure.
And they're not gonna pass on the savings to the customer, I promise.
that is for sure.
Hmm.
Not seeing all that much.
Oh, and taking a little bit of a hit, more of a hit here, down 1% now.
Starting to see a pullback on those cable companies too. Warner Brothers, Charter. Timo continuing to get hit here a little bit, down about a half a point. Part of that from what, as we talked about earlier, where the issues in China. You could see it there. You could see it earlier on Alibaba too, which is down even higher, a little like 0.7. Amazon down here, Steve, another 0.7 too. So e-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, people are slowing down their purchases, right? And I think that's what's happening. Spending is down.
Yeah. Oracle still making gains here. So there you go, Steve. Another one that we talked about last week, where I told you that one's was one I was interested in because they've really changed their business. They've really done a good job of reinventing itself, going from a sort of siloed, hardware company into a cloud-based infrastructure provider. So it's good to see that. Real nice move up here by Oracle. Wow, that be interesting to see what it does as it approaches.
Very muted day here. Even with some of these stocks, it's a stock picker market today, but even with some of these positions, it's very muted here. But Bitcoin down 1.5% in the session here.
Yep, 58,200. And again, we're seeing the smaller stocks get hit too. The RUT is the 2,000 index from Russell down right about even actually, but the RUI, which is the small cap 1,000, down a little bit. So although they're trying to move up, your cocoa's up a half a point here, Steve.
I think today is all about Apple.
Yeah, I mean that would be enough to drain down the stuff. Apple and the other, those mega techs that are getting hit. Nvidia, Hertz, XQ, another volume mover here. Up 60%. And another one just normal volume, 30 days, 750,000 shares so far this morning, 5 million shares. It's pumping right now. There's a runner. If it can get a volume spike above the last hour here, you will see that run. This is the same sort of setup where you have
Yeah, we're seeing tick now of almost 350 here, so we are seeing some buyers stepping back in, um,
Yeah, and
more
what I'm
buyers
looking
than
at here,
sellers.
it just broke out of that descending triangle there very nicely.
Now up to almost 250 now, so
Yeah, so like we said, when we get that muted, we tend to see towards we get to here towards the 10 o'clock hour, we tend to get some pickup as opposed to the opposite. So
right. And Boeing right back to 155.70 here, so
nice.
I'm not too concerned about it. 155.81, I'm already back to my numbers, so it's what I'm saying. It's not. There's a base down here. I
I
think
also
that
think there's profit taken across the board. What we just saw, people again, I think are scared, and you're getting that retail investor. They make a little money, they're getting the heck out, and
yeah, they can't hold, right. That's
yeah,
that's that nervousness, and I love scared money, as
yeah,
we all know.
no, it's not a problem. I'm just, that's what I see. And right now, then you get the buyback now from institutional. It says thank you very much to the weekends for giving us that better entry, and here we go. We're Spy trying to go positive here.
So Binance founder CZ will be
Oh.
released from prison next week, September 29th.
I didn't realize he was actually in jail already. I knew that he was going to be doing time here in the U.S. for his. Although I think they let him do his time overseas or something.
I think the whole thing is stupid.
Yeah. Well, have you seen that our man SBF is trying for a new trial? Says the judge was biased and wants to be able to say that since most FTX customers got paid out, that the narrative was wrong around it. What he, it's such a fake narrative from him because they were paid out what the market was worth the day that it crashed. They weren't paid out what it actually would be worth today once those crypto went up. It also doesn't take into effect the hundreds of
That
thousands to millions of people that were affected by it in other ways than just their holdings
SBF
at
is a
FTX.
sleazeball and he needs to stay right where he's at.
We will see. This week will be Caroline Ellison will get her sentencing, so that will be
And she
interesting to
needs to
see.
spend some time too as
She
well
does too.
because
Yeah, the hoe. I'm just going to throw him under a bus and don't look over here and see how I actually was one of
he
the
was the actual trader for many of it. So,
for
yeah.
Alameda. Yeah, she's the one that was using our money to make her investments. Well, not mine or yours because we weren't in an FTX, but
I
uh,
I have
you
held
know
my
what I mean.
ground about being in Coinbase and not getting out of that. Oh, looky there with Boeing. Howard, I might take some money here on a limit order here. I don't know exactly where I'll take it, but
Hey, like we've said, in times like this where it's choppy, take your profits and run. Spy has gone positive here. RUI's gone positive, RUT. So now all of them, again, except for QQQ, which is down about a half a point, we are seeing the rest of the market move. And as you've mentioned, the big down drain there on QQQ is -3% on Apple is definitely going to lead to that. And then you add in a -2.5% on Nvidia. So Tesla 1.67. The tech darlings are having an issue here. You can see I was watching that consolidation here.
I have an order in at 156.75, Howard, to get out, and I am out. So
There you go. Nice trade
I
there,
we
Steve, right here on.
successful at 156.94 now, but it was a successful trade. I like that. I'm out. Happy. So, and you saw it right here live.
Yeah,
I wasn't picking it
absolutely.
up.
Taking a look at the biggest decliners here this morning. Instill Bio getting
157 now.
hit here down about 25%. And it looks like this had been a pumper the last 4 days. Those people that got in on Friday definitely getting hurt here. That's why you can't hold any of these pumpers that we tell you about. They are definitely very quick scalp trades.
Yeah.
Another one
Hey,
dropping, Global Blockchain Acquisition Corp. They are entering emergent.
And we're seeing now Boeing dropping now.
You
Yeah,
nailed that one, Steve. You nailed that one. SPY continuing to move up here.
yeah, and
QQQ.
it's
Dow
coming in
Jones
back.
up almost a point.
And Bitcoin right back to 58.5. So
That's
that
what I
dip
said.
is,
There's been some
yeah.
been some sell, but there is a pretty good buy wall set up around that bottom of the 58 into about 57.4. That's why I wasn't nervous when we talked about that earlier today. That
Palantir
is a nice bet.
PLTR up another 1.2% today. That's been on fire.
Yeah, we talked about that one a lot last week and the week before, right? It impressed me because insiders, people that are in the tech, know a lot about Palantir. Those of us in the DC area, especially, as that's where they focus a lot of their time in the federal space. And once it hit that S&P 500, and other people, your Johnny Come Lately figured it out. Look at that move. I mean, that's a great.
We're also seeing FedEx, FDX up 2.5%. We talked about that last couple of sessions now about how the Dow theory is pushing. Right now, you're seeing FedEx now around the 300 handle here. Berenstein this morning raised their price target there to 337 from 305. That's a 10% raise, pretty much.
That's a big raise.
That's a big raise, yeah. The Dixie now 100.665, so we're getting even we're slipping.
Delta now up 1.13%. Get Restoration Harbor up almost 4% on the day. Some of the movers we were talking about earlier here. Will SPY hit an all-time high today? That's the question. I think it's got the legs to get there. 565.16 would get us there. 563.75 is going to be a big resistance area, though. I will point out, I had drawn that bullish flag the last week when I was bullish still on the SPY. You can see how once it broke through that flag, it's held up really nicely. Not seeing them. Well, Nvidia starting to. Well, as I say it, I talked it back down. I was saying it was starting to trying to make a move back up. Tesla is not.
And Boeing right back down to 156.34 there.
Yeah, Apple looks like sellers there again still. They tried to make a move up here, got knocked down.
The Dow's now up 300 points here. Not many buyers in Apple, though. So some of the money coming out of Apple is going into other stocks. It looks like, obviously Disney being up 1.66% here. Anything under $100 in Disney is a buy.
You always say that.
Yeah, it's silly. The numbers don't add up. Interestingly enough, I will be in Tokyo in February, or I'm sorry, in early January. And I might have to drive by Disneyland Tokyo and see how busy that place is in the wintertime there.
I'd like to check out one of those foreign Disneys at some point.
Yeah, I've never done that.
I've never been to any of them myself, the foreign ones, but it would be interesting. Oracle struggling to get above the 168.50 handle today. Amazon's still getting hit too. I don't see a lot of strength here, Steve.
No.
I do not see a lot of strength today. I think my mantra for the day is, can we just hold where we're at? Can we trade sort of sideways for the rest of the day, or do we get hit hard? Not seeing a ton of red, a ton of green anywhere. Okay, Steve, it is 10 o'clock. Thank you for joining me this morning and showing us how to make a successful trade there on Boeing. For Stephen Big Beat Orr, I'm Howard Greenberg. Thank you for joining us for our hourly look at the morning markets. I'll be back at noon to give you my midday report and talk a little bit more about Bitcoin today. I also have some a segment to do on linear regression, my favorite technical indicator. I'm going to do a little bit more explanation on it, how it works, where it works best, and how you use it to make some trade decisions. See you later today, Steve.